You know, we all think we know the story of Jacob and Esau. It's like the ultimate story of sibling rivalry, right? But what if I told you the way we've always seen it might be completely wrong? Drawing from some incredible insights from a sermon by Pastor Yun Young Moon of 10 East Same, we're going to dig in and uncover a hidden meaning that, honestly, changes everything.
So you're reading the book of Romans, and the Apostle Paul just drops this bombshell, quoting the prophet Malachi, and it's jarring, isn't it? Jacob I loved, but Esau I hated. I mean, if you grew up hearing this story in Sunday school, your first thought is probably,
Exactly, right? We've always pictured Jacob as the sneaky, cunning brother who tricked his older twin and stole his birthright. And Esau, well, he's the poor victim, the wronged brother. But what if that whole narrative is based on a misunderstanding, a missing piece of the puzzle? Let's unpack this a bit.
Okay, so to really get to the heart of this, we have to start with Jacob himself. That picture we have of him as this schemer, well, it might all come down to one single but absolutely critical mistranslation. You know the verse in Genesis, it says Esau was this rugged hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man who stayed in the tents. And from that, we get this idea that he was maybe a bit soft, maybe even sneaky compared to his brother. But this is exactly why Pastor Yun Young Moon's sermon emphasizes looking at the original language, because it tells a totally different story. And here it is. This is the key that unlocks the whole thing. The original Hebrew word that gets translated as quiet is tam. This is why it is so important to see the original text. Tam has nothing to do with being quiet or passive. It means pious, pure, whole, even morally upright. I mean, this one word changes absolutely everything about how we're supposed to see Jacob's character. And here's the proof, just in case you need it. To see just how powerful this word, tam, is, look at who else the Bible describes with this exact same word. Job, the ultimate example of a righteous and blameless man. All of a sudden, Jacob isn't some quiet homebody. He's a man of deep spiritual character, just like Job. So let's put it all together. The big takeaway here is that Jacob's actions, they weren't about greed or some petty sibling rivalry. They were driven by this deep, pious, upright desire to get his hands on the covenant, that sacred promise God made to his grandfather Abraham. Sure, from a worldly point of view, he might look a little selfish, but from a spiritual one, he was fighting for what truly mattered for eternity.
All right, so with this brand new understanding of who Jacob really was, let's go back to that famous scene with the bowl of stew. Because now, it's not just a story about a clever scam. It becomes this profound choice between two completely different ways of seeing the world.
And the contrast couldn't be more stark. You've got Esau, who comes in from the field, and his entire universe just shrinks down to his grumbling stomach. He's all about the now. But Jacob, he sees this fleeting moment of hunger as an opportunity for something with eternal value. One lives for the body, the other lives for the promise.
I mean, just listen to Esau's own words. They reveal everything about his heart. I am about to die. Come on, was he really? Or was he just being dramatic, prioritizing his temporary craving over his permanent spiritual inheritance? For one meal, he just tosses aside his entire legacy. He chose the stew.
So what was this birthright anyway? What was this thing Jacob wanted so badly and Esau just threw away so easily? Well, it was so much more than just getting a bigger slice of the inheritance. It was a position of massive spiritual responsibility.
The firstborn son got, a double portion of the inheritance, but he also became the leader of the family, its head of state, you could say, and he was also the family's priest. But the most important part, the real heart of it all, was that he was the one who would carry on God's covenant promise, the promise that would one day lead to the Messiah. That's what was on the line.
Then, this whole concept just gets bigger. God chooses the entire nation of Israel to be his firstborn son among all the nations of the world. Their job was to be a kingdom of priests, a light to everyone else. But a lot like Esau, they often traded that incredible calling for temporary things, for idols and comfort.
But the story of the birthright doesn't just end in failure. Oh no! The idea wasn't thrown away. It was perfectly fulfilled and blown wide open in the new covenant, when a new and true firstborn finally showed up.
And that, of course, is Jesus Christ. He's presented as the ultimate firstborn, the first to be resurrected from the dead. He is the perfect inheritor, the one who fulfills every single promise that was ever tied to that birthright. And here is the most incredible part. Through faith in Jesus, the real firstborn, we get adopted into his family. We become co-heirs with him.
We get to be part of what the book of Hebrews calls the community of the firstborn, whose names are written in heaven. That birthright that Jacob fought for, it's now offered to every single one of us.
So this is where a story from thousands of years ago becomes intensely personal. Because that choice, the bowl of stew versus the eternal birthright, it isn't just about Jacob and Esau anymore. It's a choice that you and I face every single day.
And it's not a one-time thing, right? It's about how our heart is oriented moment by moment. Am I living for the immediate satisfaction, for the stuff I can see and touch right now? Or am I living for the unseen, eternal promises of God?
So what does that bowl of stew look like for us today? Well, it's anything really that promises instant gratification but pulls our eyes away from our spiritual inheritance. It's choosing comfort when we should be choosing our calling, or pleasure instead of purpose. It's choosing the visible world over the invisible one.
And we need to be really clear about this. Choosing the birthright is not a ticket to an easy life. I mean, just look at Jacob. After he got the blessing, he had to run for his life. He got cheated by his uncle for 20 years. He wrestled with one hardship after another. But see, through all of that, God was shaping him into the man who could actually carry that blessing. The struggle was part of the whole deal.
The New Testament doesn't pull any punches here. It gives us really stark warning, and it uses Esau as the prime example of what not to do. Don't be godless like Esau. Don't trade something that is sacred and eternal for something that is temporary and ultimately worthless. The stakes are just as high for us as they were for him.
So the final question is really for you to think about. What is that tempting thing in your life? The thing that offers a quick fix, an immediate satisfaction, but risks costing you your spiritual inheritance. Today, right now, what is your bowl of stew? Because the birthright is always on the table and the choice is always yours.